Hello everyone. Welcome to the additional practice questions of English usage. This is part 2 of the series of English usage. Before you have come to the second part of additional practice questions, I would request everyone to go to part 1 and see what we have covered in that. We have covered the depth of the questions in terms of the concepts that are used or typically asked in English usage in part 1, and this is in continuation to that, and we'll see more questions around English usage and what kind of context setting is done typically in exams like CAT. As I've already told you in the intro videos also, that English usage per se doesn't have a lot of important component in the CAT exam, but it's a very, very important topic for other entrance exams CAT, like XAT or SNAP or IFT, so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and see what are the questions that are here. Now, what we have to do here is select the right word from the given set of words to form a correct sentence. So now it says, I abjure you to lend money I need for my mother's operation. So basically, you're trying to lend money. So the word here has to be abjure. Now, if you're trying to lend money, then the answer has to be you are requesting someone. So it is adjure. So this is a request. So the question that we have to start off with is this. Select the right word for the given set of words to form a coherent sentence. I adjure/abjure you to lend money I need for my mother's operation. Now, basically, you're trying to lend money. So the whole idea is that you're requesting someone to give you money so that it can be used for your mother's operation. So that word has to be adjure. So adjure means request and therefore the right word. Abjure, on the other hand, is to renounce something, condemn. When you're not in agreement with something, you condemn something, and that's abjure. So that word won't fit. So the word that will be fitting here is adjure. Responsibility is shared between/among the group. Now, since you're referring to the group obviously will have more than two people. So it will have two plus people. So it can't be between, it has to be among. So between will be the wrong word. Between is always used when you're referring to two people or two parties or two objects or two entities. Right? There's another word which is very commonly misunderstood by the students is the word difference between among and amongst. Now, among is typically used when you're referring to more than two people, but you do not know the number. For example, you might say distribute the chocolates among the class, and you're not sure what's the number of the class, so that's among. But if you want to say distribute the chocolates between the, let's say, five of us, then it is amongst. So among and amongst, please keep that in mind. Amongst is always used for a specific bit. Although I like the things that they are, I am not adverse to change. Now this word adverse refers to anything which is extreme. So but you're talking from a point of view of change, so which means you don't dislike change or you don't hate change. So the word has to be averse. This has to be the answer, and adverse can't be fitting in this context. The Prime Minister announced a new bill to try and effect a change in the administration's mentality. Now, typically, affect works like a noun and effect works like a verb. And you're saying that the PM announced a new bill to try. Try is a verb, and you have an and here, which means the next word also needs to be a verb, and the answer should be effect. So the first word is adjure, then it is among, then it is averse and effect. I hope this question was clear. Let's move on to the next question. Now it says the amount/number of people affected by flood is mind-boggling. What is mind-boggling? The number. Amount is generally used for non-countable or uncountable nouns. Since you're referring to people, it has to be number, and this word will fit. It was the bride's dream to walk down the aisle. So these are again the pair of homonyms. It was the bride's dream to walk down the aisle. So this aisle refers to the passage that we're referring to, and hence the answer in this case. This aisle refers to an island. So an island is generally referred to an isle with an I, but if an isle starts with an A, then it is referred to a narrow passageway. He was heavily censored by the principal for his reckless action. Now, you can't be censored because censored refers to ban. So this means ban. So ban won't work here. So it has to be censured. Censured means rebuked or scolded or harsh, maybe repudiated or used harsh words upon. So censured in that context will fit here. Despite a long battle in court, they agreed to an amicable slash amiable split in the end. You refer to a split, so it has to be amicable. Amiable means happy. Amiable means joyful. So the whole context of amiable means happy. And if you're referring to split, then it can't be happy. It has to be amicable. Amicable means without any problem, mutual consent, and with each other's consent. So that's the word that's going to fit. So the first word will be number, then I'll, starting with an A, censured, and amicable. I hope this was clear. Let's move on to the next question. Now, the next question says select the incorrect sentence in terms of the usage of the given word. Now it says set. I set about cleaning the place. I set about cleaning the place. Set about means start off, so that's correct. The sun is about to set in her illustrious career. You don't say set in, you say set on. So the sun is about to set on her illustrious career, so that's the error, and therefore this has to be the answer. They set out to find a resting place. Set out again means to start or embark on a journey. They set off on a journey. Set off also means to trigger or to start or to embark. So set about, set out, and set off all are correct usage. Basically, if you see here, it basically, so this word set is a verb, and these words like about, in, on, out, of, all these are prepositions. So these combination of verb plus prepositions are called phrasal verbs. And since phrasal verbs is something that have a predefined structure and meaning to them, it is very important for us to understand that, especially when you encounter questions like these phrasal verb type of questions, your pre-reading of phrasal verbs is going to help you. There is per se no logic to figure out the answer based on the question, unlike what we have seen in critical reasoning or sentence correction on RCs. But the whole idea about English usage is, especially from a point of view of phrasal verbs, please read a lot of phrasal verbs. There is a list. I'll be sharing a list with you people in the subsequent lectures. But as understood, this has to be practiced and well understood. Let's go to the next question. Now it says, anticipating expecting a huge turnout, the EC deployed the largest available security team. Now it says anticipating slash expecting a huge turnout, the EC deployed the largest available security team. Now, since you are referring to a huge turnout, this huge turnout has to be anticipated. You are anticipating that people are going to come and not really expecting, because expecting, expectations and expecting word will typically fit when you have a context of uh, an expectation with respect to a certain cause. So but a huge turnout, because of what, since it is not given, therefore we will not check the option of expecting, and hence it has to be anticipating in this case. The minister appraised him of his latest developments. Now you're talking about a minister who is talking to somebody else with regards to some latest developments. So if that's the context, then the word has to be appraised, because appraised means informed. Appraise comes from the concept of appraisal, wherein you rate, judge, or evaluate someone on their past performance. So that's exactly not the context which is fitting here. And since you're referring to the fact that minister is informing somebody on the latest developments of whatever, so it has to be appraised. Her allusion slash illusion to flowers reminded me that Valentine's Day is coming. Some reference to flowers are reminding you that the Valentine's Day is coming. If it's a reference, then it has to be allusion. Allusion means a negative reference, generally not done directly, but an indirect reference to any object or entity is allusion. Illusion, on the other hand, is more to do with something that you feel it's existing but it's not there. For example, like when you're moving through a desert and you might feel that there is a mirage. So the whole point of mirage or an is illusion. It seems to exist but it's not there. If we look at the last option, it says he was criticized for his simple, simplistic description of the internet as a series of tubes. Now, he was obviously criticized. So the word that we're looking at cannot be a positive word. He was criticized for his description of the internet as a series of tubes. Now, if somebody calls internet as a series of tubes, then he is talking about the internet in a very narrow and vague fashion, and the word that we're looking at is simplistic. Simplistic is talking about a complex area with minimal or basic information. Unlike simple, which doesn't really have any context in this question. So I hope this was clear. So the first answer was anticipating, then the next answer was apprised, then the next answer was illusion, and finally we got the answer as simplistic. Let's go to the next question. Each question has two sentences A and B. Choose the correct sentence with respect to articles. So we'll have to see the usage of articles in these questions. So the first sentence says, being honest is difficult because it makes us vulnerable. Now, would we need an article here? The answer is no. We don't need an article before honest because we are not referring to honest what? Like had we be referring to honest people, honest individual, honest person, then we would say an. But since honest is an abstract nouns don't take articles. So this will be a correct usage. Being an honest person, now if you see here, it says an honest person because obviously the reference is to a person which is countable. Danny will try his best to ensure that he doesn't lose money. So this also looks to be a perfectly correct usage. Next sentence says people are worried about paying for homes. Who are worried about paying for homes? People. Now, do you need an article before people? You would had you given more context around the sentence. If you had said Indian people or people of a certain region, then we would have said the. Otherwise, this is just a generic letter, a generic word, and therefore will not need an article in this case. The second sentence says, do you really care about people displaced by the recent flood? Now, it's the same thing we were discussing in the previous question. Now, what kind of people are you referring to? You're referring to the people who are displaced by the certain flood. So, you're not referring to a general set of people. You're referring to people who were displaced by the flood, and therefore you need an article the here. And that makes sentence number B wrong, and only sentence number B A is correct in this case. I hope this is clear. Let's move on to the next question. My friend gave me an advice on how to go about purchasing a house. Again, this advice is an abstract noun. Don't need an article here, so that's wrong. He shared a piece of advice. Now, this is correct because you're referring to a piece as a and not really referring to the abstract noun. So, another how to think through this is whenever there's a countable noun, countable object, an article will precede it. But if there is an uncountable noun, you do not use article. For example, you don't say a milk or a sugar or a salt, but you definitely say a bottle of milk because the reference is to the bottle and not to the milk. Similarly, you say a loaf of bread, a carton of milk. All these examples show that if you are just referring to the abstract noun, then articles are not really used with the abstract noun. But the moment you attach a countable noun with the abstract noun, then you have to use an article to represent the countable noun. I hope this is clear. So this is the right sentence. Next one says, I enjoyed taking a stroll near Buckingham Palace. You're referring to a specific palace, Buckingham Palace. So it needs to be preceded with an article the. So there needs to be an article here. Easy access to irrigation can change life of farmer. Which life are you referring to? In general people's life? No, we are referring to the life of farmer. So which means again we need a definite article the in this case. So this option is also wrong. I hope this is clear. Move on to the next one. Now it says in the following paragraph, some words are underlined. Identify the parts of speech of the underlined words. The countries are obliged to agree on a single nomination. Agree refers to an action, so it has to be a verb. On a single nomination. Nomination is a noun. And what type of nomination? Single. So single becomes adjective. And we were supposed to produce a candidate long ago. Alas. So alas is an interjection. It's an interjection. The task has proved beyond them. Them obviously is a pronoun, and beyond refers to a position, so it has to be a preposition. And after weeks of discussion, the task remained deadlocked. What remained deadlocked? Task. And task is a noun, so deadlock has to be an adjective. So the whole point of this question was to give you an understanding that whenever you are dealing with parts of speech, do not just look at the word on an individual level. Relate it to the sentence in the context, and that should give you the proper meaning. And that brings me to the end of this practice exercise. This was part 2, remember. Please do the questions carefully before you come to the additional practice questions. I request you to go to the concept videos, get your concepts crystal clear, and only approach the practice and additional practice questions. Thank you so much for your time. Hope you see you in the next video.